In the event of an emergency evacuation, please follow these guidelines. If you are seated in the lower rows of level 100, please walk down the stairs to the floor, proceed through the nearest portal, and exit the building. For the upper rows of level 100, walk up the stairs to the concourse and exit through the nearest doors. Those seated in 200, 300, or loge seating, walk downstairs to the concourse to exit through the nearest doors. Elevators will not be in service, but event staff will be available to guide and assist you.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, and welcome to Thompson-Boling Arena, and more importantly, welcome to the College of Architecture and Design commencement exercises. This day represents a milestone accomplishment in the lives of our students. Please remember that this is a formal academic ceremony and appropriate decorum is expected. Please be respectful throughout the ceremony and that the focus of today is on our students. At the conclusion of today's ceremony, all our graduates will be asked to exit up the stands to the concourse level of the arena. Guests will not be allowed on the floor. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the processional. The procession includes the graduates of the class of 2022 and the faculty representatives of the college led by Marshall Tricia Stuth. The University of Tennessee, Knoxville Provost John Zomchek and the College of Architecture and Design's Dean Jason Young will lead the commencement stage party that includes honored guests and members of the college administration.
Good evening. Please remain standing as we begin today's ceremonies with the presentation of our national colors and the singing of our national anthem. Gentlemen, please remove your caps and join Adriel Baralt Jimenez and the UT School of Music String Quartet in singing the Star-Spangled Banner.
Bright skies and bright stars through the perilous fight. O'er the ramparts we watch, where so gallantly streaming, and the rockets ran glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say thus that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Please be seated. My name is Jason Young, Dean of the College of Architecture and Design. It's my honor and distinct pleasure to preside over today's College of Architecture and Design commencement ceremony as Dean of the College. Congratulations to all in attendance today, for you are all in one way or another connected to this amazing class that we're celebrating today. Those of us in attendance who are a bit older know that while one's life is an immense collection of days, there are really only a few days that are defined by the threshold events that make them epic. Today is one of the epic days in the lives of almost everyone here. Graduation from the university, whether it's with an undergraduate or a graduate degree, is just such a beautiful moment, and it's very cool to be sharing it with all of you. We know it's the graduates themselves who deserve our primary attention today, but before addressing them more directly, I want to acknowledge the family and friends of the class of 2022. So many have rallied around these graduates, made financial sacrifices, invested time and energy, and have generally committed to the success of each and every person walking across the stage today. Teaching in higher education for close to 30 years, I know how momentous the sacrifice and support has been, and I want to congratulate family members and friends of our graduates today. Well done. Graduates of the College of Arch and Design, you have done it. Congratulations on your tenacity, your focus, your commitment and passion, for the hard work you've invested in yourselves. Having a professional degree in architecture, interior architecture, or landscape architecture is a distinct accomplishment and a testament to your dedication. You are in a prime moment, poised to launch into the professions or deeper into the disciplines you've invested so much into already. I hope that each of you take a bit of time today or in the next couple of days to truly reflect on what you've accomplished and how you've overcome the uncertainty of the past few years. Find time to marvel at what you've done and how. So many life lessons have been packed into your education. It's now time to take the long view of it all, if only to give yourself license to pause in the process of moving forward. It's time to take stock of the many ways in which you are prepared for the future. Today, as you celebrate your graduation, feel good about your accomplishments and make assessments of your community, or dare I say, communities. Instead of thinking in terms of a single amorphous community, isn't it more true to say that each of us belong to many nested communities? You've experienced so many kinds of learning while in the college, and through the things you've committed to, you've made yourself a vital part of a multitude of communities. As you move towards the future, we hope that you'll recognize how amazing it is to understand yourself as a multiplier and accelerator of communities. We want you to do this for the rest of your life. It's an amazing time to be a designer. So many systems are ripe for your critical attention. The built environment transcends our ability to find its boundaries. So much of what impacts how we interact with one another, how we form collectives, how we celebrate our civic responsibilities for the greater good, and how we identify ourselves is reliant on the built environment. Its qualitative and quantitative measures are determining. Design conditions community, and communities impact design. There is a literal awesome quality to the reciprocity between design and environment. Design touches almost every facet of the lives of those of us in this building today. And as designers, as architects, landscape architects, interior designers, you have an important mission that starts today. Well, we'll give you the rest of today off, or maybe a few days off. But regardless of when you make the transition from this project to your next, know that it matters. Know that your work matters. Know that how you do your work matters. And who you are and who you become matters. There's so much potential in this room right now. It's really amazing to just think about what you will go and do. What an incredible moment to pause and recognize the commitment, resilience, and fortitude you have each shown on your way to this very day. I'm very proud of every member of the class of 2022. On behalf of the faculty and the staff of the College of Architecture and Design, it's my honor to congratulate each of you on your accomplishments and recognize the communities that have empowered you in your achievement. Now, it's my great pleasure to introduce Nick Dryden, our guest speaker for today's ceremony. Since meeting Nick Dryden some 8 years ago, I've consistently been impressed by his work, by his demeanor and approach to doing the work. We've had many amazing conversations about how architecture and design host so many meaningful experiences, even as architecture has the capacity to host its own set of qualities and affinities that are often much more than the building. Architecture in Nick's work is a plush and vivid cultural medium. His projects transcend the formal nature of architecture and operate much more as atmospheres. Nick is a third-generation architect in Tennessee. His grandfather and then father have led Allen N. Dryden Architects in Kingsport since the 1920s. After graduating from the University of Tennessee College of Architecture and Design with honors in 1995, Nick started his career in Nashville to carry forward his family's tradition of passionate design and community leadership. Since establishing Dryden Architecture and Design in 2001, Nick has garnered many accolades for his work. Projects under his leadership have received local, state, and national awards and have been featured in multiple publications, including Architectural Record, Metropolis, The Wall Street Journal, The New York Times, etc. Nick is a proud alum of the UT School of Architecture, an important supporter of the college's ongoing engagement in Nashville. Please help me welcome Nick Dryden as our 2022 commencement speaker.
Wow. Thank you, Jason. Good evening. Thank you, Dean Young, for the introduction, and thank you for the invitation and privilege of addressing the class of 2022. Graduates, it's a distinct honor to be here with you, your families, and your friends today. It's incredible to think that I grew up coming to this arena to see some of my favorite bands as a kid. Guns N' Roses, NXS, REM, Radiohead. Am I dating myself a little bit here? So when Dean Young said the commencement was going to be here at Thompson-Boling Arena, I was thrilled to be on this side of the stage performing for you. Apologies, you don't get Taylor Swift. My 5 years at the College of Architecture and Design were some of the most memorable and impactful years of my life. I think a lot about how this place shaped me and my career, each and every day. I remember sitting where you are, and to be truly honest, I was likely dozing off in the back row from 5 years of sleep deprivation. So I know exactly where you are. Thank you again for allowing me this honor. I first would like to congratulate and extend my sincere gratitude to the faculty. Over the past 2 years, we have experienced a time like no other on this planet, especially in education. The pandemic has proven to be a challenge, yet also an opportunity to invent new ways of sharing knowledge and exchanging ideas. Never have I had more respect and appreciation for educators. The dedication and commitment from our professors has been tireless, and at this moment, I would like to show them all our appreciation. The resiliency of both students and faculty is inspiring, and the influence you have had on each other will be everlasting. I do think it's also important to congratulate the parents, families, and friends at this moment. It's been your sacrifice, support, and encouragement that has made all of this possible. Your patience with us during all the incoherent phone calls due to a lack of sleep. You're listening to all the abstract and esoteric stories from studio experiences. Hearing about all the new discoveries within this unique curriculum and learning this new language that is being freshly adopted. Does something like this sound familiar, parents? I spent most of my weekend trying to get my building to better reinforce the edge of the street on the exterior, but open up all the programs on the interior, suggesting the street is subservient to the building. Okay. Did you wonder why on earth all this tuition money was invested at this university with such a wealth of resources available, and to only spend time in one concrete building on campus and nowhere else? Most importantly, congratulations to the class of 2022. You did it. What an amazing academic achievement and accomplishment to have completed this rigorous course of study. From the day you first walked into the A&A building, you have pushed yourselves beyond what you ever thought was possible. You've endured long juries and murky desk crits. You've discovered skills that you didn't know you had. Most importantly, you've learned that there are no easy buttons. That design is a layered process that gets refined through persistence. and more persistence, and more persistence. And now, as you begin to think about your next steps, there are many details to bring into focus. Where will I find my first job? Will I ever actually get to design a building? You mean I have to take another 6 tests to become a licensed architect? On my last day of architecture school, my professor asked the class a surprising question. Who in this room plans on becoming an architect? It was a shocking thing to be asked, especially after grinding day in and day out, working harder than I ever had, living and breathing architecture and design, and quite a lot of high-performance glue products. For me, it was getting lost in this new world of design. It was learning and understanding how everything in our environment informs architecture. For some of you, it was landscape architecture or interior architecture that you let yourself explore. All of us discovered within ourselves our ability to develop meaningful conceptual ideas and pushed ourselves to become effective problem solvers. It immediately became clear what that query was intended to do. It cemented this idea that the last 5 years of architecture school had truly prepared us to do anything. Our curriculum had trained us with a focused lens, at the same time provided us with a broad foundation that could lead to any number of different careers. My professor was giving us license to continue to dream. He conveyed that there were no lasting assumptions about where we could go or what we could do. It was on our last day that our professor was opening yet another door, giving us pause and inviting us to sustain our questions beyond the studio, beyond the hard work asked of us, and beyond the natural endpoints of a semester, a year, a degree. This was a moment of generosity, sprung on us at a time in which we thought we had completed something significant. And we had, and so have you. But it was a new beginning with that question. So, who in this room plans on becoming an architect? It is an important question to be asked. It's one that I've thought about each and every day since. As a graduate of the College of Architecture and Design, you have a powerful ability to apply a mix of knowledge to an expansive world. Architects, landscape architects, interior designers are all big thinkers, but also detail-oriented and think in the way of processes. You've been given the opportunity to introduce ideas that can be positively disruptive. You can affect communities, create products, design buildings, help many others realize their wildest dreams through design. When I was sitting where you are today, I was wild with curiosity, but a bit overwhelmed with what was next. What did I learn? Did I learn anything? Where would I land? The summer after I graduated, I assisted an urban design studio here at the college. It was through that experience that I discovered my now home, Nashville. Now, I have to tell you, I'm a born and raised East Tennessean, and I was ready to get as far away as I could. Like many architects, young architects, I was bound to end up in a metropolitan city with hustle. London, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, perhaps. But after several visits to Nashville, I noticed something different. I found a very accessible creative community that was deeply rooted in the arts, songwriting, music, performance, and production. And the people behind it were incredibly generous with their wisdom. I realized this was where I wanted to be. I sensed I could immediately contribute, not just add more water to the ocean. 27 years later, and after 21 years of running my own firm, I attribute much of what I've learned and accomplished to the songwriters, artists, musicians, and producers with whom I've worked. They've instilled in me the importance of being open to alternate influences and collaborating in unexpected ways with different disciplines. Thinking like a producer has made me a different architect. This was a lesson I learned from one of my first clients, a legendary musician and producer. He once told me, "You have to find your voice within your community in order to make effective change." To be honest, I had no idea what that meant until much later in my career. The relationships I've made with several artists and musicians have had a profound impact on me and influenced the way that I work and think about spaces and places. Music is atmospheric. Songwriting is a storytelling process. Architecture is all of these things simultaneously. Never did I ever imagine that I would end up working with some of the most important musicians of our time. Marty Stewart, Jack White, Justin Timberlake, Dan Auerbach, the Kings of Leon, just to name a few. Finding the chance to work with artists whose work I have known and admired for a long time has been one of the highlights of my careers. I'm surprised how many people I meet who say, I always wanted to be an architect, but I was never any good at math. I always say, that's why we hire engineers. Like a music producer builds a team of musicians to make a record. Building a team is a key component to being an architect or a designer. Design is not a solo gig. So today, I challenge you to be willing to step outside of yourself and your work and look and listen intently. It is the conversations and relationships that you will make with builders, with doctors, with fashion designers, with chefs, with musicians and your neighbors that will help you find your voice. And in turn, you will help them find theirs. Design is collaboration. What we do is a lot like songwriting and music production. An essential component of the outcome is understanding your design intent and establishing an effective narrative that relates to your audience. After my fourth year, another professor asked us to leave a self-addressed envelope where we were going to be the following summer. He wanted to send us our semester evaluation formally by letter. I keep that letter close by at my desk. In this letter was a rigorous assessment of my performance, which didn't necessarily match up with my own understanding of my abilities. It acts as a reminder to stay humble and always push myself, to never take my talent for granted and always be hungry to learn. Don't be discouraged by critique, learn from it. Chances are you, like me, will remember these lessons. They will have more impact on your ability to develop your character and contribute positively to your community wherever you land. I'd like to close with a quote from famed music producer Rick Rubin. All that matters is that you get to express yourself, and the audience gets something that speaks to them, even if these two things are not the same. Congratulations again, class of 2022. It's now our turn to learn from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. It's now my pleasure to introduce this year's student speaker, Sam Daniel. Sam Daniel is receiving his Master of Landscape Architecture degree today. He's originally from Covington, Tennessee, where he grew up on a family farm, helping raise beef, cattle, and pecans. An opportunity to work in a greenhouse for his high school agriculture program led him to discover a passion for horticulture, and he chose to study plant sciences at the University of Tennessee. Concentrating in sustainable landscape design as an undergraduate, the Master of Landscape Architecture program in our college was a natural choice to take his skills to the next level. Sam has served as the student ASLA chapter president, received the MLA Faculty Leadership Award, and was part of the coordination team for last summer's boot camp, an intense program just before school in the fall that gets incoming landscape architecture students ready for the curriculum. Sam loves to bake birthday cakes, play trivia, and play pranks on his classmates. Please welcome Sam Daniel to the podium.
Hello everyone, congratulations on graduating. I'm Sam. I'm going to skip right past the nostalgia, the pleasantries, the Zoom and pandemic jokes, and get right to it by telling a story. It's a classic boy meets girl story. Boy and girl are born on the same day. Boy attends Soviet art school. Boy visits family in Prague. Boy discovers Western art. Boy escapes Eastern Europe as a railcar stowaway. Girl's mom decides that she wants her portrait made. Boy paints mom's portrait. Boy and girl have a baby. Boy's art studio begins filling up with free and inexpensive junk. Boy and girl start wrapping the cheap junk with cheap fabric and cheap rope. Boy and girl decide they want to scale up, wrapping the expensive Arc de Triomphe with expensive fabric and expensive rope. Paris says, not so fast. So boy and girl go on to wrapping other buildings like the German Reichstag building, several islands in Miami, and a few miles of coastline in Australia, financing the installations with no public money, but rather the sale of their own artwork. Boy and girl grow old, making art until the day that they die. And even after they die, realizing the wrapping of the Arc de Triomphe shortly after their passing. If you haven't caught on yet, this is the story of Christo and Jean-Claude, two of the coolest artists to ever live. Their work was big, it was conceptual, it was controversial. But what really made the pair so remarkable was their process, and it really was a process. Sometimes taking decades to realize a project. The art, Christo says, was everything involved in the process. The workers, the politics, the negotiations, the construction difficulty, the dealings with hundreds of people. The end product was just a celebration of what it took to achieve it. It is the ethos of Christo and Jean-Claude that I want to charge you with today. Do what you want, design what you want, make someone else pay for it. Move to a new city, move back home with your parents. Tell your coworkers what you really think about your boss. Trick your clients, turn your camera off for the meeting. Ask for a raise, ask for another raise. Always go with the more absurd option. Use lots of color, make everything black and white. Obsess over your work, obsess over your partner and kids. Obsess over construction workers and paperwork. Our work as designers is indicative of ourselves. We must make a decision. What is the version of ourselves that we want to show the world? Is it dull and expected, or is it wrapped in excitement and curiosity? I'll close with words from Michael Kimmelman's obituary for Christo in the New York Times. Christo flipped the script. He trafficked in a passing sort of abstraction whose meanings remained open-ended and up for debate. I'm an educated Marxist, he once said. I use the capitalist system to the very end. It is this attitude that I hope to embrace as I attempt to exist in this system, and I hope that you will embrace it too. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. We will now move to the hooding portion of the ceremony where we will celebrate each graduate. The hooding ceremony is divided into 5 sections, each part representing our degree programs. Each degree program will be invited to the stage by their school director to be hooded. We ask that you hold your applause until the end. We will start with the Bachelor of Science in Interior Architecture. Now taking the podium is Milagro Zingoni, Director of our School of Interior Architecture.
Thank you, Jason. I would like to ask the Bachelors of Science in Interior Architecture students to proceed towards the stage. And please, would everyone hold their applause until the last of the Interior Architecture graduate students has been hooded.
Brianna Renee Aderman. Lily Anna Hubbard. Rebecca Mole. Michaela Nicole Wood. Kaylee Morgan Bergner. Kayla Moretti. Olivia Ray Robbins. Elizabeth Marie Tondro. Brooklyn Delaney Poff. Cameron Weekly. Tyler Trent. Olivia Claire Campbell. Emily June Schwarzenberg. Hannah Mariah Phillips. Raven Minx Ulmer. Emily Sue Slavy. Ashley Michelle Ebert. Erin Mackenzie Ganserer. Jacob Haneen Abdu. Andrew David Keys. Allison Jean Aldridge. Autumn Joy Hanks. Alyssa Bond. Lauren Johnson. Yesenia White. Hannah Lesson. Hillary Tunnell. Summer Michaela Tessum. Hannah Ray Hobbs. Madison Grace Liebrick. Matthew Dean Clayton. Emily Jo Roach. Kelly Nicole Weeks.
Please congratulate all of our graduates receiving a Bachelor's of Science in Interior Architecture. I would now like to introduce Scott Wall, Interim Director of our School of Architecture.
Thanks, Milagros. Thank you all. I'd like to ask the Bachelor of Architecture students to rise and proceed to the stage. And again, would you please hold your applause until the last Bachelor of Architecture graduate has been hooded. Hang on.
Catherine Anne Marie Coleman. Austin Tyler Balcom. Alice Irizarry. Sarah Grace Lloyd. Austin Tate Hill. Rebecca Ellen Neal. Elizabeth Phillips Ford. Harry Tarter. Carson Fisher. Eden McCarty. Trey Robbins. Philip Minton. Brendan Wallace. Lydia Ann Russell. Callie Marlene Ellenin. Mary Margaret Michaud Williams. Trevor Bernard Thompson. Grace Ann Altenburn. Gianna Elise Noel. Matthew Eppel. Gunnar Martin. Logan Guidera. Blake Christensen. Leah Michelle Gardner. Ethan James Fox. Ben Hoffman. Matthew Collier. Grace Eileen Hooper. Alexander Ian Kale. Kyle Kimbrough. Nicholas Patrick Strong. Connor Steele. John Eugene Wosicki. Shelby Eileen Matthews. Amber Ashley Adams. Olivia Gingrich. Jenna Ely. Carly Elizabeth Harland. Carrie Elizabeth Probst. Mary Grace Shuttleworth. Christina Sinaceros. Bradford Allen Webster. Gina Wynn. Briley Grace Houston. Sophia Teresa Spock. Alexa Davidson. Joanna Christine Martin. Jacob Charles Rabidou. Devin Aiden Price. Andrew Gilreath. Claire Stolarski. Logan A. Miller. Carson Gensert. Lauren Taylor Urin. Gabrielle Mears. Josie Jones Tunnel. Hannah Gastineau. Lisa Rowland. Corley Kotler. Juliana Rogers. Jared Tanner Mullins. Jessica Patrice Peters. Evelyn Robin Vandervoort. Natalia Malmstad.
Please congratulate these graduates of Bachelor of Architecture. I'd now like to introduce Abigail Sachs, the Graduate Program Chair in Architecture, to the podium.
Thank you, Scott. I'd like to ask the Master of Architecture students to proceed towards the stage. Would everyone please hold their applause until all the Master of Architecture graduates have been hooded?
Emily Laura Hundley. Giselle L. Baclini. Alexis Ray Oren. Amy Lee Valentine. Ariani Harrison. Juliana Olson. Olivia Lee Kristen Pitts. Derek Rakes. John Hooton. Catherine Parker. Blair Mays Bickman. Rachel Payne. Maya Pavone. Annie Faith Phillips.
Please join me in congratulating the Master of Architecture students. I'd like to now ask the dual degree candidates receiving a Master of Architecture and a Master of Landscape Architecture degree to proceed towards the stage. Holding the applause will be short this time.
Caleb John Brackney. Zachary Carey. Hollywood Conrad.
Please congratulate all the graduates who are receiving a Master of Architecture and a Master of Landscape Architecture. I would now like to introduce Gail Fulton, Director of our School of Landscape Architecture.
Thank you, Abigail. I'd like to ask the degree candidates in landscape architecture to now proceed towards the stage. Would everyone please hold their applause until all of the landscape architecture graduates have been hooded.
Zeb Ray Idle. Abigail Diana Stubblefield. Georgia Morris. Alexis Briley Fielder. Maria Clarita Lopez Fontela. Tyler Douglas Forsberg. Haley Dennis. Alexander Holloway. Haley Richardson Treadway. Seth Zanoni. Kinsey Simmerman. Faith Ardelia Jackson. Chloe Kilpatrick. Marilyn Marie Reich. Isabella West. Eileen Young. Aubrey Bader. Carrie Ann Essery. Erica Grace Herbal. Stormy Elizabeth Tibbs. Katie Grostefan. Catherine Sarah Hill. Mary Elizabeth Robbins. Samuel Kirk Daniel.
Please congratulate our graduates receiving degrees in landscape architecture.
This is a great group. How about another round of applause for the graduates, class of 2022. Just as a reminder, when the ceremony ends, all guests and graduates are asked to exit up the stairs to the concourse level. The 2022 graduates of the College of Architecture and Design, I wish you well. Go forward, do great things. Congratulations. It's now my pleasure to introduce Provost John Zomchik, who will confer your degrees.
Thank you, Dean Young, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's my honor and privilege to be here this afternoon to confer the degrees. A word to the graduates before I do, a challenge to you. I know that some of you were giving me odd looks when I was handing you this thing that you weren't expected to get. One person said, "Is that my diploma?" No, it's not your diploma. But what I do want to do as we close is challenge you to remain, to use some of the words you heard today, epically open to possibility. But also to challenge you to remember that by virtue of being here tonight, you are volunteers. That's what you have. That's what you're holding now. To remember that you're a part of an imagined community that's committed to making the world better for everyone. You're committed to holding a torch, shadowing yourself to give light to others. You're committed, and how appropriate is this for architects and designers, to creating a more just, sustainable, and prosperous future for whatever community or communities you find yourselves in as you recess from Thompson-Boling Arena tonight and go forward to your next adventure. And may that adventure bring you joy and happiness. May it bring you challenge. May it bring you satisfaction. And may you follow your passion and your star to greater things. Thank you for being volunteers. You will always be volunteers. You're joining a community of 250,000 alumni who proudly wear orange and who routinely greet others that they see wearing orange, no matter where they find them. It's a great thing. It's a wonderful thing. It's a comforting thing to be called out because you're wearing a power tee in an airport on another continent, and the last thing you expect to hear is "Go Vols." All right, now it's time for me to say the magic words which actually confer upon you your degrees. Would you please stand? All right, graduates, your presence here today signifies that you have done the work and met the requirements for your degrees. On behalf of the state of Tennessee and the Board of Trustees, I confer upon you the degrees for which you have been recommended. Undergraduates, you may move your tassels from the right to the left, and let's hear it for the class of 2022. We'll close the ceremony today by following a tradition, and that is the singing of our alma mater, after which, yes, it's in the back of your programs if you don't know the words, and do sing along. We'll take a few minutes, a short minute to celebrate, and then we had a new tradition that we started last year when we were in Neyland Stadium, and that is the tossing of the caps to show our exuberant happiness for getting to this moment. So I'll give you a cue for that, and that's a moment to celebrate yourself, to celebrate one another, and to let everyone know how happy we are. So everyone please stand for the alma mater. After the celebration is finished, the stage party will leave the stage, and that will conclude our ceremony for this evening.
pledge to you, Old Tennessee, our alma mater true. We pledge to you and harmony, our loyalty to you.
Yeah. All right, you ready for one last celebration? Your first celebration as UT alumni, perhaps, for some of you? All right, on the count of three, starting with three. Ready? 3, 2, 1, hip hip hooray!